We are back here now on the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast to talk about some more quarterbacks to round out the show. This time in the Pittsburgh area, talking about the Steelers quarterback battle between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. This Week 2 preseason matchup against the Buffalo Bills was much anticipated just because we saw Russell Wilson in his first action as a Steelers quarterback, and Russ and Justin Fields both played in this game, obviously. Both of them got about 5 to 4 drives, I want to say, and Pittsburgh's lost to the Buffalo Bills 9-3. So, as exciting as preseason games can be, a 9-3 finish, you can only imagine how many people were actually watching that game. Unfortunately, I was one of them, and I did see the disappointing performance from the starters and also just carrying it on throughout the rest of the game. Justin Fields was the quarterback that led the only scoring drive in this game for the Pittsburgh Steelers just before the end of the first half. And overall, Russell Wilson finished 8 of 10 for 47 yards, whereas Justin Fields finished 11 for 17 for 92 yards and also 42 rushing yards as well. But although the headlines and everything's going to be Russell Wilson's debut, how disappointing it was and everything like that, the biggest issue to me was the offensive line and just the pass protection we saw and how awful it was. Honestly, there's no real other way to put it, especially with Russell being with the starters to start the game. He started the game ahead of Justin Fields, and more so, it was the right tackle to me, Broderick Jones, their former first-round pick from last year. He struggled a lot, massively, and it was very evident against Gregory Rousseau. I always say with offensive linemen and like centers, well, obviously centers and things like that, when you're doing your job, nobody talks about you. When you're doing a good job, nobody mentions you. You're not really a star of the game or anything like that. That's the kind of love that offensive linemen get. But when you're doing an awful job, everybody talks about you. It's super obvious, and that's the last thing you want. And that's sort of what happened with Broderick Jones, because he was deployed again at that right tackle position. And to be, I guess, fair to the Steelers and Broderick Jones, Broderick played right tackle for his rookie season, right? He played there because the Steelers weren't very good. They didn't really have a good right tackle. So Broderick Jones, being a left tackle in college at Georgia, he made the switch over last year to play right tackle. And while that might be more of a versatility thing, you might feel like that's a great thing to have in Broderick Jones. It's weird for offensive linemen, and especially tackles, to make that transition, because in one spot, you're obviously using a bunch of different movements, a bunch of different feet movements, a bunch of different get-offs, and just hand placements when you're on the left-hand side as the left tackle. And then you make the change over to right tackle and you're, kicking back with the other foot. Your stance is a little bit weird. The orientation of where to put your hands is just different when you're on the complete different side of things. I can only imagine maybe it's probably like writing with your other hand almost. That's kind of like what I'm thinking about it. And even though Broderick got the experience last year of playing there, my biggest issue with this, and it's almost just like the circumstance that the Steelers have to deal with, is that they can't really control that Troy Fautanu got hurt. It's an unfortunate thing, and we talked about how he was penciled in more likely than not to be the starter right away as a rookie, but he gets hurt, and now you put Broderick Jones out there over there because Dan Moore, the other left tackle, isn't capable of playing over there. So it didn't put Broderick Jones in a good position, because obviously you feel good that he did play there last year, but it's not his natural position. So that really got exposed in Saturday's game against the Buffalo Bills, where he just got absolutely bullied against Gregory Rousseau. He just tossing him to the side and getting to Russell Wilson. Not a great look. And it's bad when you know that Steelers fans and some analysts are calling for the rookie to come back as soon as possible to start there instead of a guy that's in his second year. But I don't want to dump on Broderick Jones too much, because I truly believe that it's just not his position. Yes, he played there in his first year, but he's a left tackle, and playing him on the other side, it's just not going to go well. He also has been dealing with an elbow injury of some sorts. He wears a brace on it, and he was able to play, but I think that also limits the power that you have in that right arm, I think it is. So, not a great showing for him, and it kind of negated what you saw out of Russell Wilson, or what you could have saw out of him if he's always just getting sacked, always has pressure in his face. And Mike Tomlin talked about it as well. He said, we've got to do a better job in pass protection than we did, not only in possession downs, but just in general. And I was really upfront with the group about it in that regard. That can't be a problem for us. We've got to be better than we were tonight in that area. And he also mentioned that any evaluation of either quarterback was sort of essentially negated because of how bad the pass protection was. And you have that bad taste in your mouth now after the second preseason game. You have a decent one in the first one, but also the offense was still hit or miss, and now you follow that up with a disappointing performance. Now this third game, I think, becomes even more important, not only obviously for the quarterback position, but apparently for the offensive line as well, to make up for that bad performance in week 2. Their last preseason game will be against the Detroit Lions on Saturday once again, so a lot is going to be put into that. I think that'll be a true determining factor in this quarterback position because although it might be true that Justin Fields appeared more exciting, more, just equipped to be the starting quarterback because he did make some great throws. They were able to use his running ability a lot, and stat-wise, it looks a little bit more impressive than Russell Wilson. And I think the biggest thing that I've just heard a lot of people say, just today with it being, national news apparently, that Russell Wilson was just awful in his first game. I think that the athletic ability is what stands out with Justin Fields, and almost like his running ability, that athleticism, gives him the opportunity to make the lack of Steelers pass protection not such a major factor if he's able to buy himself some time, escape, and turn a bad situation into a good one because he's able to run. Whereas Russell Wilson, he's sort of past those years, obviously, so he's more of a stationary target and isn't able to do that as much, or at least to the level of Justin Fields, obviously. So that seems to be the biggest thing, with everybody already calling for Justin Fields to be the starter today and how awful Russell Wilson played. I'm still holding out. I don't think Russ played that bad. For as far as preseason games go, I don't put too much stock in it, obviously, because it is the preseason. Because last year, when I'm looking at the Steelers team, and this is sort of my conspiracy theory of it all, when I'm looking at the Steelers last year in their preseason games, they were lights out. Kenny Pickett was looking great. The offense under Matt Canada was looking, just awesome. They put up a great score against last year when they played the Buffalo Bills in last year's preseason game. I think the Falcons as well, they played great in that one. And then when they headed into the regular season, they were awful. It looked like the preseason didn't matter whatsoever, and it sort of doesn't. So now this year, maybe a bad preseason leads to a very good regular season. That's my hope, at least. And in all seriousness, the preseason, it only goes so far in evaluating, to me, how these guys are actually going to be in the regular season, because again, Justin Fields played very well, but once the starters got kind of out of there, you can point to that being a reason why maybe he played so well. But I still think that Justin and that running ability kind of helps to hide a bad pass protection, like a lot of people have said just today. But for right now, I'm thinking about this third preseason game and how important it is now for not only Russell Wilson to kind of make up for the lack of production that we saw, but also for this offensive line. I just think you have to put Broderick Jones now on the left. I don't think you really have a choice. You can't put him out there anymore. Also, with a bad performance by Broderick Jones, it kind of brings up this question in my mind. Do you start Troy Fautanu being a rookie and coming off an injury regardless because of how bad Broderick Jones plays, or do you run the risk of putting Jones out there again after a bad performance like this one against a guy like Matthew Judon? So that'll be an interesting dynamic to see what the Steelers decide to go up or decide to end up with. And also, who starts this third game overall, because Justin Fields is getting, I think, a lot of love on this Monday after the Steelers' second preseason game, where is Mike Tomlin going to go ahead and start Justin Fields because of that excitement, or is he still going to go with Russell Wilson because he keeps saying he's in the pole position? And one thing about that decision is that if he keeps Russ as the starter, I don't think it says too much. I think that's what people expect to happen. But if he does start Justin Fields, I think that pretty much gives up the decision of who's going to be the starter, because it's going to be a big change if you decide to start Russell Wilson in the second game and afterwards you say you couldn't really get a gauge on what their performances were really like because the pass protection was so bad, but you still bench Russell Wilson for that third game and decide to not start him. It's kind of contradicting there, so I would feel like if Mike Tomlin made that decision to start Justin Fields in the third week, I think that's pretty much telling us who the starter's going to be. But my just thoughts on the starter as I just close out this episode and this segment is that I still feel like I've mentioned with Drake May, with other rookie quarterbacks, with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, I feel like, to me, you always got to go with the veteran. I would feel more safe and more just at ease going with the veteran because I don't think Justin Fields needs all that pressure right away on him right off the start. I think you give Russell that opportunity to do it because of who he is and his resume and everything like that, right? That's all great. But I feel like in the long run, giving it to Russell being the starter for the Steelers and not putting that much pressure on Justin Fields so early, I think will do better things for the Steelers team and these two quarterbacks, because Justin going from the second quarterback to the starter, I think would benefit him a lot more than being the starter right away. You know, it's great you won the job and everything, but if you do play bad, I think you destroy his confidence if he does play bad, and then you just decide to bench him for Russell Wilson, because right now I think everyone's thinking that Justin Fields gives you more than Russell Wilson. So if you decide to bench Justin in the regular season and start Russell, you almost can't go back to Justin if Russell does prove to be this other quarterback that just isn't what he is anymore, and then you really have a problem with the Steelers quarterbacks because you can't go back to Justin and Russell is not that much better than him. So to me, just long-term sake, and what I hope happens is that Russ starts his third preseason game. He does enough to convince more people. You know, he shows why he's in there, the ball placement, the deep throws down the field, the ball security. He wins the job for the regular season, plays well enough, and then hopefully at some point, because I do want to see Justin Fields, I do think he has something to offer. Justin gets his opportunity at some point in the regular season for whatever reason it might be. So that's how I feel about it. I think Russ will end up being the starter. I don't think Mike Tomlin also wouldn't waive or give in to all this national opinion, this national just attention on everyone saying Justin should be the starter. He's going to go with the one that he feels gives this team the best opportunity, and I feel like that's going to be Russell. I just feel like it's all been set up like this, so we'll see. The offensive line is certainly something else to keep an eye on because that was really bad on Saturday, so that has to be fixed, and this quarterback position has to be addressed also as well. But that pretty much does it for today's show. I want to thank you guys for joining me on a very heavy quarterback episode of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. And if you want to catch more of this show, check out both YouTube channels to see a lot of different ways that you can catch NFL content in regards to this show. And lastly, tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more NFL coverage and discussions on all the latest headlines around the NFL with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thanking you guys for joining me, and I hope to see you guys back here with me again tomorrow.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to